Welcome to episode 2 of Adventures of Two Black Girls.
Don't you know that you are royalty? Gold scepter in your hand, roses at your feet.
Bruh.
Did we mention we are teachers?
Bruh, I done had some experiences in my teaching career.
Indeed.
My first episode of teaching was summer school, which was nice. It was a geometry class to students who had taken algebra. And it was like, okay, we want to be able to get them to calculus by their senior year. And I'm super encouraged because most of the students, I would say probably like 90% of the students, wound up taking calculus their senior year. They killed it. I was so encouraged to hear about their momentum and the fact that they made it to calculus and are now in college doing a big thing. So I'm super encouraged by the impact that I was able to have on those students. I'm a math teacher. I teach high school math. I've been teaching high school math for 35, take away 23, 12 years. That's quite some time that I have as experience. And my goal was to go in because I want to teach Black and brown students about math and get them interested and help them to learn that they can do it. So I've had some really great experiences. I feel like that was a great kickoff experience. It was an older white man who brought me into the school. He was like, yes, we need more Black women in this profession, in this school, teaching math. And it was super encouraging to be able to do that. I wasn't able to stay though because they had a cut in their funding due to charter schools being brought in and bribing the kids with computers. I was like, dang, that's what we on? So I wound up going to another school, and this school was on the south side of Chicago. Super cool experience with the students. I loved it. I taught freshman algebra. I love teaching freshman algebra. Freshmen are the best group of kids because they're super new to this building and they're untainted.
They're fresh meat.
Fresh meat. Fresh, impressionable.
Fresh, new.
I thought you were going to say my freshness. My Yes. So I taught
innocent.
freshmen,
super innocent.
They come in so new, and it's crazy because after about 4 months of being in school, 3 months of being in school, they are not fresh. And oh my goodness, it's something else that changes in them, but it's not everybody. It's probably about 10 to 30% of the students wind up getting this little switch. But they know when they come to my classroom, I'm not playing those games. But I really loved working at this school. It was a little unfortunate that I had to leave. I probably would have stayed there. I loved working at that school. I had to leave though because the principal would come and observe me. And he would fall asleep in the back of the class during my observation.
But why?
What? I feel like he might have had a stroke at some point in the past 5 years of him being a principal. When he would talk to the teachers or talk in general, he talked seriously, his teeth were stuck together. I was like, something is off. We need to do something about it. We need a new principal here. What are we doing? I think the year after I left, or maybe a year later, he wound up leaving, which is great. But while he was there, he used to get on the microphone over the intercom system. Kids would be running through the halls, kicking and having a good time after the bell rang. So he decided he was going to count down. This man counted. You got 30 seconds to get to your classes, students. 30, 29.
Oh, he really counted it down.
28, 29.
Wait.
28. Yeah,
And
you
he
got. And he's the principal.
Wow.
He was the principal. There was no respect. No respect from the students. No respect from the teachers. It was like, what is happening here? But not only that, there was a misappropriation of funds. They would use the funds for office staff gatherings. We're going to have a meeting every week and we're going to make sure that we eat good when we have these meetings.
Rough.
That's where the money in the school was going. I was like, are you serious? This is what we're doing? He hired people who were having inappropriate relationships with students. Students would speak up about it, tell teachers. Yeah, the face is exactly the face that I had. Students speak up about it, tell teachers about it, And then the AP still stayed at the school. They swept it underneath the rug. They would get a payout of some sort. The student would. And that kind of stuff is insane. Like, this is, yeah, that was an experience. Because I was able to really build up some great relationships at the school, to the point where I was in the classroom and I must have raised my voice after school hours, and a teacher was walking down the hall and she came running in like, "What's wrong? What's going on? You need some help?" And I was like, oh, thank you. What's your name? That was a good friendship. It was a great Star Trek friendship. We was friends for a long time after that. I'm still friends with several of the teachers from that school, and I really appreciate them and love it. But then that goes to like the burnt out rate of teachers. Man, like the greatest teachers might have leaving that school. The ones who stay, not all. But there was one teacher who was so near to retirement. When I tell you, these kids were in her room.
Couldn't last.
In her room.
Didn't make it.
Leaned back on a chair where somebody behind them was plucking their eyebrows. Oh. I kid you not. Folks was getting eyebrows plucked. They was getting waxed. They was getting mustaches waxed.
Wow.
Somebody had
a grooming salon.
Right, it was a salon up in that jam. It was a salon. She came to one of our meetings and said, "I smelled something burning, and I turned around, and somebody had a flat iron in the back of the classroom, and they were doing hair." I was like,
that sounds like a movie. You can't make that
up. You can't make that stuff up. You can't make that stuff up. When I tell you the experiences that I've had, it's the craziest experiences. To the point where I had a basketball player. Super cool, but he could not read. There was a reading deficit to the point where he couldn't read the word can. But he got to high school. He was 15, almost 16 years old, got to high school, couldn't read the word can. Where is the help for students like this? Who is going to speak up for them? Special ed, not necessarily helping these kids. It's not enough education out there about special education. If there was education about it, then it might be beneficial. But since we don't know, we don't do. That's a hard thing to me, to see a kid who has a learning disability. And it became an altercation in class to the point where we popcorn in the conversation. All right, you go ahead and read the next sentence. You read the next one. Let's read. Algebra class, so we got word problems. He gets his word problem. It's turn to read. He was like, "Man, I ain't doing this. Man, I ain't. I said, "I'm sorry. Pause.
Whoa. Hold on.
I said, "I'm sorry. Can you pause for a second?" He was like, "Man, I'm just, I need you to stop talking. I need you to stand up, and I need you to step into the hall. Stand up and stop talking and step into the hall." And he did it. I was so shocked.
It worked.
He was in the back.
Sometimes
and he walked to
do stuff and you be like, "Oh, that works. That works. Okay, let's keep going. Let's keep going with this." Okay.
He walked down his aisle. He walked up to the front of the class. And I thought he was going to choke me up. He was a big dude. Like when I tell you 6'5", kid you not, 6'5". He plays basketball. Walks up to the front. And then he exits the room. Shocked the mess out of me that he actually walked out of the room and waited in the hallway. And we had a really good conversation. He really did. Mm-hmm. He wants to know. He wanted to know. He wanted to be educated. So I had a great conversation about what he needs for my class. I also was in the middle of a fight one time. One of the two gangs were about to fight in the hall, and the security grabbed two of the boys and threw them into my classroom. Oh. Threw them into my classroom. Like, "You waiting here. Ms. Jackson, lock your door."
With
what?
You? They threw them in there with
me and all of my students.
Oh.
Said, "Lock your door, Ms. Jackson. Do not let them out." So now they done put me in harm's way. And now
security and the teacher.
Upgraded my status right there. Upgraded my status.
Okay.
When I tell you they were in my face, those two boys, I just stood by the door. I just stood there. Like,
that's crazy.
So they walked up to my face like, "You better let us out of here. Blah, 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 blah. You better let us out of this MFing room," cussing me out. Like, I said, "You better sit down, find a chair, and put your behind in it. And they went and they sat down. I said, you better not even test me. Sit down. And I feel like they needed somebody to just be like,
say that.
sit your punk self down and stop acting crazy. You're not about to do nothing to me. All these kids in this room will jump you. I wasn't going to say that, but that's what
I'll get them on you.
I got a lot. My students loved me at that school for the most part. Those two boys, they chilled out. They grabbed a seat. And then security came back and took them downstairs. And I don't know what happened after that. But I had known the freshmen for 3 years. For them to come to my room and say, Ms. Jackson, hold these kids in this room. The freshmen who were there, and even those kids who were in there. I didn't know their name, but they knew me. They were still heated because they was ready to get up into the middle of the fight. But they didn't get in my face anymore. It wasn't one of them kind of situations. But as a high school teacher, I definitely have had some crazy moments, and that's just a little bit of the crazy.
A little taste.
Just a little taste of my experience with high schoolers, and I've had some experience with other grades too. We'll talk about that at a later date.
So at the other spectrum, I teach early childhood. So those are the little ones. And I've always taught younger kids. I've worked in summer camps with younger kids, and that has just been like, man, I love this group of kids. They love to learn. Yes. They are excited to learn. Everything you do is cool.
Oh, I love them.
So it's great to have that experience. When I began teaching, I started teaching in kindergarten. And it was a school that is on the south side of Chicago. And I guess I'm kind of apprehensive about saying where the school is, because so many people have different perceptions of different areas of our fine city.
But it's crazy everywhere, so don't get it twisted. Everywhere. It's crazy downtown in the best schools.
It's crazy up north. It's crazy by the lake. It's crazy in
the suburbs. Don't get it twisted. Everybody got problems.
So take that as a grain of salt, but kind of not really, but a little bit. Yes, take it as a grain of salt. I say that to say it was very far from where I lived. Being able to start my teaching experience, having to commute, that's one thing. That's also a barrier. But as I started, I remember my first day of teaching, and all these little bright-eyed kindergarten kids are in front of me, and I'm like freaking out because I'm like, I set up my classroom. I got all the things set up, but what are we gonna do the first day? Oh yeah, that's right. I gotta do stuff with them. And so not really knowing what kids are capable of, but once you have a new set of kids who are in kindergarten, you have no idea what they can do. Some have been to preschool, some have not, and so I'm just trying to plan something I think they might like to do. And we're coloring, and we're working on, everybody's sitting at tables. It was quiet. Quiet is an accomplishment in kindergarten. That is quite a feat.
Quiet is good.
For the first day of school. Are you kidding me? And I am walking around the classroom, and in comes my principal. Okay, that makes me a little nervous. But in comes also the chief.
No. Not the chief.
And for the people who don't know, in public schools, there are superintendents or people who are the higher up. So this lady is a higher up. And she comes in, they both sit down and just sit and look. So imagine somebody just sitting and staring.
That would have scared the crap out of me.
You're working.
Ooh-wee, shaking in my boots.
And she's like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? And I'm like, I'm teaching, because this is my first day of teaching. So it's just nerve-wracking. That set the whole tone of the experience there. Wow. So that was interesting.
Wow.
But as I continued that year teaching, there were so many deficits that I noticed with the kids. And some kids were able to write. Some kids never picked up a pencil in their life. Some kids can say their alphabet. Some kids are saying that letter is blue, or that letter is cat. So there was so much that needed to be done, but there was only one teacher. That's also something to note. Imagine 28 students and
28
5-year-olds. Most of them brand new to school, and one person in front of them. So my first year was very much like, I have no idea what am I doing? Okay, we made it through the day. Let's do it again. What are we doing? Okay,
day is over.
Exhausted. My first week, I slept like a baby. Second year was a little bit better. Got a little bit more confidence and got some comfortable kids that were a little bit more manageable. Third year, that was my pivotal year. It was so pivotal. As I mentioned before, there are kids who are exposed to school and kids who are not. There are kids who have anger issues, and there are kids who can handle sharing. But year 3 is when all of that came together and it was like multiplied. So just imagine that I had 40 children in front of me. The school year began and it was 28. I'm used to that amount. I could do that. But then as the year continued, another kid came. And another kid came. Oh, Miss Jackson, we got another kid for you. Another one came. And by October, I looked around and I counted.
Shut up!
40 kids up in that class.
Oh my gosh. Did you have somebody working with you?
So, here's another thing. As 40 kids came into my class, I did get an assistant. And the reason why is because I had some students who definitely needed to be in smaller classroom settings. A student who was diagnosed with autism, who had some severe sensory issues. So imagine being 5 years old with 40 kids in one room and there's noise everywhere. He didn't know what to do.
Ain't no quiet.
But freak out. I'm gonna go. I gotta go.
Oh my gosh.
I gotta run.
I got 4 5 and 6 year olds in my family. And the amount of noise that come out of those 4
loud.
when they're in one space.
Yeah. They don't realize they're loud.
Multiply that joint by 10,
Yeah.
I would have lost my
Yeah.
mess.
So that poor child. But
Ooh-wee.
there were several kids who needed to be in a space that was specifically for them. And with 40 kids, it left me feeling like I can't help these children.
Again, special ed resources are lacking.
Very lacking. And so that was, oh man, year 3. So I also have a special ed endorsement, right? So I could teach special ed if I wanted that position, or if that position was open, sure. But now that we have 40 children, I can't do that. But they needed one in the school. So here's the solution that we had.
Ooh,
They
the
decided,
solution,
you
Miss
wanna know?
Jackson.
My principal decided, okay, so we hear you. You got 40 kids. That's a lot. You can't handle that. So we're going to make a split classroom with the other teacher. Oh, okay. So this teacher is now teaching first grade and kindergarten. She has some of the kids. So now it's about 28 kids in my classroom. That's okay.
First grade and kindergarten in one room?
Oh yeah, they do that all the time. Split classrooms, first and second, kindergarten and first. Yeah, they do that.
All over
At least in Chicago, yes. Yeah, that's the thing. I was in a first and second grade class when I was younger, which is also tough. So now she's carrying a burden. But as soon as they move some of those students out, which of course has to be the higher achieving kids, because you can't teach a kid who can't write and a kid who's reading, a chapter book. That's hard to do. So all of my golden children, the children that I felt like I was
Have
reaching.
you ever seen The Golden Child?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay. Maya hasn't seen quite a few
I
movies,
know,
so we have
there's
a list going, but
Yes.
just wanted to ask. Go ahead.
That's the one with Eddie Murphy.
Yes,
Anywho,
Maya. And the bald child.
Yes.
Mhm.
So, or maybe that was the Michael Jackson video. Anywho,
She saw the Michael Jackson video,
yeah.
therefore she saw the
yeah,
Golden
it's like
Child.
the same thing.
Continue.
now that I have a little less students, I could do some things, but now, Miss Jackson, we need a special ed class for the younger kids. There was a special ed teacher for the older students, but they needed somebody for the younger ones. So what we're going to do is, would you be willing to? What we're going to do is, you're going to have kids for kindergarten all the way to second grade in another group. We'll have assistants in both rooms, but you're going to teach kindergarten, and then you're going to switch over and teach, and that's just how it's going to work. So I was essentially teaching 2 classes, 2 groups at the same time. That's not heard of in kindergarten. That's not heard of in elementary school.
Wow.
In that way. So year 3, I definitely had panic attacks. I definitely lined my children up in the hallway, took them down the hall, and asked the security guard to watch them while I go cry in the bathroom. There were many days where I was like, this is intense. I could not help these kids. The reason why I have become a teacher and have stayed a teacher, year 3, I was like, I'm done. I was about to check out. But have stayed a teacher is because I want to share with others the importance of education, but also I want people to see that there's such a lack of resources and there's so much work to do, but not enough people.
Yeah.
So that's just one instance of kindergarten. I can tell you about all of the tantrums, all of the emotional breakdowns that kids have, the neglect that they go through, having to buy socks for kids who don't have socks, or make sure you wipe their face before they leave because they might not have anybody wiping their face at home, and giving them encouraging words because you might be the only one they can hear that from. Like, that is very, very hard as a teacher. So that's just one experience. We'll probably talk about others and maybe more specific instances.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll come back with some stories. I chose to teach high schoolers because I don't have patience for little ones that are not my nieces and nephews. So I loved high school, and I feel like algebra is the beginning to really understanding the rest of math. So even with that basketball player, I just want to teach him some basic algebra skills that he could use throughout his life. So I became a teacher because there are very few Black and brown math teachers in general. So specifically Black and brown female math teachers, I don't know too many at all. But when I was in elementary school, I had one math teacher who was phenomenal, and I just really appreciated her. And then when I went to high school, they explained that there are some math teachers, specifically in high school, where they just sit in the classroom, pass out worksheets, and go and sit with a newspaper and expect you to just turn it in. That's the kind of stuff that I've been trying to fight in the city of Chicago and trying to do better for my students, is making sure that they get a quality education, making sure that they understand everything, why it works. Can you reason well? Can you explain to someone who has never taken this course before, or your parents, the concepts that you're learning? So it's really cool and super encouraging to see when my students excel, or when they come back and say, Miss Jackson, when you taught me about credit cards, I took that to heart. Miss Jackson, when you taught me about debt, I took that to heart. Miss Jackson, the fact that you are a Black female math teacher has encouraged me to go to school and actually go to college and actually get a degree in chemistry or biology. I have a student who I still keep in touch with from my 3rd year at my first school, at the school that I was just telling you about, and she's like, Miss Jackson, look at what I'm doing. Miss Jackson, I'm about to go after my master's. Miss Jackson, I'm going after my doctorates. I'm so fired up and encouraged by the impact that I can make on people at that age. So that's why I became a teacher, and I'm going to keep going until I break.
It'll break you. It'll break you until you realize, oh yeah, I am helping somebody.
Yes. keeps you young, though. It keeps you young. I've learned so many things from my students, and I'm learning even more from my teenage nieces and nephews, talking about some 10 out of 10. Gotta love it. They're great. It's super encouraging to just learn from students. So it's not a one-way street. It goes two ways. So, and we love our students for sure, even if they get on our last nerve.
Even the one before that.
All the negative nerves that are in us, the next to last, the penultimate nerve.
The penultimate. We learned that. That's our new word.
That's our new favorite word. But yes, everyone, thank you all for chiming in, and we'll see you next time. Two Black Girls out.
Spitting out the facts, greatness all in my black skin. Don't you know that you are royalty? Gold scepter in your hand, roses at your feet. You can never take this crown away from me. You can never take this crown away from me.